Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. I'm Charlene Benedict for the Newsfirst team.
And I'm Dithmini De Silva. Let's start off with a look at the headlines.
Long queues are back. Number of passports issued daily limited to 750. The only path ahead is a Vine Bridge. Alternatives will only cause the Vine Bridge to collapse. A statement from President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Many subsidies from Sajith. 20,000 rupees for poverty-stricken families. Fixed price of 5,000 rupees for fertilizer. Fuel subsidies for many sectors. Anura pledges to build a nation where people respect each other. Fauzi gets a suspended sentence. 500 million rupees from the government to purchase paddy.
In today's top story, a large number of people gathered at the Immigration Department this morning were inconvenienced by the restriction on issuance of passports.
Now, the Department of Immigration and Immigration said that the issuance of passports has been restricted due to the limited number of passports that are currently available at the department.
Queues were seen opposite the office of the Immigration and Immigration Department in Battaramulla since early this morning due to the limitation in the number of passports issued by the Immigration and Immigration Department to 350 passports per day. Some people said they had to wait in queues for days.
මේ විදියට පොලිමේ දවස් දෙකක් වෙනවා අද වෙනකොට. මම ඇඹිලි පිටියරත් එහා හම්බන්තොට ඉඳලා ආවේ.
ඔව් කිව්වේ පොලිම අඩු කරනවා කියලා. දැන් බලන්නකො අතන එනක 800 එනකන් ඉන්නවනේ. දවස් 3ක් අපි ඉන්නේ.
මිනිස්සු අසරණ වෙලා කණ්ඩත් නැතුව පොලිමේ ඉන්නවා. මේ ගහ ගන්නවා මරා ගන්නවා කොටා ගන්නවා කවුරුත් බලන්නෙත් නැහනේ.
ඒක තමයි ඉතින් දවස් දෙක තුනක් මෙතනට වෙලා ඉතින් බලාගෙන බඩගින්නේ බලාගෙන ඉන්නවා ඉතින් තාමත් නැහැ ඉතින්. ආයේ දවස් දෙකක් විතර යයි පාස්පෝර්ට් ගන්න අතර. ඒක ෂුවර් නැහැ ඉතින් ළඟට එනකම්.
අපි රටේ ඉඳලා දැන් මේ ඇවිල්ලා ඉන්නේ. අපි ඇවිල්ලා අපේ පාස්පෝර්ට් එක නැති වෙලා අපිට පාස්පෝර්ට් එක ලබා ගන්න අවශ්‍ය නිසා ඇවිල්ලා ඉන්නේ. නමුත් රට විරුව තමයි ඒගොල්ලෝම කියන රට විරුව එවන සල්ලි වලින් තමයි මේ ඔක්කොම යැපෙන්නේ කියලා. ඉතින් මේ රට විරුවන්ට මෙච්චර අසාධාරණ විදිහට කරන්නේ ඇයි?
What is this passport issue? The Controller General of Immigration and Immigration, Harsha Ilukpitiya, issued an explanation last afternoon. According to the explanation, the number of blank passports that the department has is limited. The government has already taken steps to introduce a new e-passport. Bids have been called and a foreign company has been awarded the tender to issue the e-passports. The Controller General of Immigration and Immigration said that due to the limited number of blank passports available at the department, 750,000 blank passports have been procured from the same company that was awarded the tender to issue e-passports. He said that this stock of blank passports is scheduled to reach Sri Lanka by the end of October. What is the solution until then? When inquired by Newsfirst, Minister of Public Security Tiran Alas said the system of issuing passports based on the allocation of time slots made via prior bookings will be suspended from tomorrow. The minister said a decision was reached to issue 750 passports per day in the order of arrival.
Human Rights Watch said that the Sri Lankan government has been striving to showcase its achievements in economic reform and human rights protection to the international community.
However, it noted that a new report by the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights warns of renewed threats to fundamental freedoms in the country.
Human Rights Watch pointed out the new report by the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights notes that the economic crisis, which escalated in 2022, has doubled the poverty rate, with the UN estimating that a quarter of households are experiencing food insecurity. The report notes that democratic reforms and accountability for corruption and economic mismanagement remain largely unfulfilled. The report also finds that ill treatment by police and security forces is prevalent. The High Commissioner called on members of the UN Human Rights Council to renew mandates for monitoring and evidence collection and urges the international community to help break the cycle of systematic impunity by using all potential forms of jurisdiction. Human Rights Watch echoes this call, urging UN member states to adopt a resolution renewing these mandates at the upcoming September session.
Sri Lanka decides. Sri Lanka decides.
Independent presidential candidate Ranil Wickremesinghe says Sri Lanka should only move forward along the Vine Bridge. He said alternatives will result in the collapse of the Vine Bridge and the people will end up drowning.
A presidential campaign rally chaired by independent presidential candidate Ranil Wickremesinghe was held in the Mavanala town this afternoon. It was themed, quote-unquote, Puluwan Sri Lanka Victory Rally. People representing a number of parties including the Sri Lanka Potujana Perumana, Sri Lanka Freedom Party and the United National Party attended the rally.
We have to think about the future. That is where we are at. So if we are to go forward, it should be along the path that we've been taking across the Vine Bridge. We can't go astray. Some say they will stop collecting taxes. What would happen if there is no alternative taxes? Our income will decrease. They want us to cut the Vine Bridge. If the Vine Bridge is cut, we will fall into the river. Will you go across the Vine Bridge or cut it? Different people say they will remove various taxes. I looked at the NPP manifesto. According to that, the income will reduce by at least 200 billion rupees, maybe more. How will that be recovered? That means the Vine Bridge will be cut. They are reducing tax revenue and promising subsidies. How can you increase expenses after reducing the revenue? They are unaware of mathematics and economics. They are trying to cut the Vine Bridge from both sides. He needs to be given another 5-year term. Let's not forget the suffering due to the lack of gas and food when we couldn't make porridge for our children. Now we have the SJB and the NPP saying various things, but none of these groups were there then.
රාජබේ කියනවා ජනතා ජන බලවේගය කියනවා ඔය මොන බලවේගයක්වත් එදා තිබුණේ නැහැ අද රටවල් 18ක් එක්කලා අද අපේ
Today our country has been able to continue the IMF program in a successful manner with 18 countries. Can Anura Kumara, who has not even opened a roti shop, do this? No, he doesn't have a team for it. Sajid Premadasa only has 2 ministries and both became bankrupt. The Ministry of Housing went bankrupt and the Central Cultural Fund was destroyed. Can such a man manage this country? So the SLFP has reached a decision to work for the victory of Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Sajid Premadasa, the presidential candidate of the Samagi Jana Balavegya, announced that a new program will be launched to eradicate poverty.
A presidential election campaign rally was held yesterday afternoon in Samanture, chaired by Sajid Premadasa, the presidential candidate of the Samagi Jana Balavegya. The rally featured speeches from political leaders of the Samagi Jana Sandhanaya representing the Eastern Province as well as members of parliament and other notable figures.
We are launching a comprehensive poverty alleviation program that combines the best aspects of existing initiatives like Janasavya, Samurdhi, Asvasuma and Gamidiriya. We understand that the poor in this country do not want to remain dependent on subsidies forever. With this in mind, we are implementing a 2-year program aimed at eradicating poverty. Under this program, each poor family will receive a monthly subsidy of 20,000 rupees for 24 months. We will also provide high-quality fertilizer at a subsidized rate of 5,000 rupees and ensure that fuel is available at an affordable price, distributed fairly and transparently to avoid black market issues. Our goal is to ensure that farmers receive the fertilizers they need. Additionally, we will introduce a QR code system to offer fuel subsidies to farmers, fishermen, three-wheel owners, school transport service providers and those operating the mills. We are committed to writing off agricultural loans and addressing the long-standing issue of fair pricing for farmers. There is a significant disparity between the price farmers receive for paddy and the price consumers pay for rice. This is unjust to the farmers. We will implement a program to guarantee fair and fixed prices for rice farmers while ensuring that consumers can purchase rice at affordable rates. This initiative aims to protect both the farmer and the consumer, creating a more equitable system for all.
Here are statements made by the members of parliament at the rally.
Gotabaya Rajapaksa came to power following the 2019 incident, which has raised many doubts. The commission appointed by the president has revealed that there is a group behind this. Then Attorney General Dappula de Oliveira has called it a conspiracy. So what is this conspiracy? It is not only the responsibility of the Cardinal to investigate this matter. Ranil Wickremesinghe, who stated that we need foreign assistance, is now saying the opposite, and he has changed. He says that local police can investigate. Ranil knows that the Rajapaksas have a connection to this and he is trying to hide it. Some representatives come here to buy your votes with money. Ali Sabri, who shamelessly supported the crimes committed by Gotabaya Rajapaksa, comes here and asks you for your vote again. Those who asked you to vote for Gotabaya last time are back, trying to deceive the people once more. They attend meetings trying to show that Ranil has a wave of support in the east. The majority of Tamil people live in Batiklo and the majority of Muslims live in Ampara. Regardless of where we live, we must live with generosity. We should resolve our differences and stand together. We invite the Tamil people to join us in supporting the leader we have chosen.
Andhra Kumara Dissanayake says that a country where people respect one another will be created under a government of the National People's Power.
The National People's Power Muslim Brotherhood meeting was held in Rajagiri yesterday. This event was presided over by the party's presidential candidate Andhra Kumara Dissanayake. Parliamentarians of the NPP and members of the Executive Council of the party were among those who attended the meeting.
Governments are formed in our country by pitting one community against another. Politics in the south against the north. Politics in the north against the south. Politics in the south against the east. Politics in the east against the south. They cannot survive by addressing the real issues of the people, including ensuring democracy, good governance, a government free of corruption, developing the economy of the country, development of the health and education sectors in the country. Those should be the political matters, but those are not the main topics of their discussions. Their discussions are focused against on pitting the south against the north and the east, and the Sinhalese against the Muslims against the Sinhalese. If we form governments divided, the government will have to function in line with the same ideology that they used to come into power. We come here to invite you to form a government where all of us are united and not divided. We need a government that gives equality to both Sinhala and Tamil languages, the cultures of one another. You wear your clothing while the Sinhala women wear the upcountry sari, the culture of our Tamil sisters. What kind of a society do we need? Do we need a country where people are sidelined and aggravated based on one's culture? What kind of a country do we need? We need a country where people accept the cultural identity of each and respect that. People who will accept your culture and respect it, and in doing so unite and move forward. Our voter base fell down to 3%, but we never took up racist slogans.
ඔබගේ අනන්‍යතාවය, ඔබගේ සංස්කෘතිය පිළිගනිමින්, ඒකට ගෞරව කරමින්, ගරු කරමින් ඒත් වින් වින්න නෙවි එකතු වෙමින් ඉස්සරහට යන ශ්‍රී ලංකාවක් අපිට ඕන. අපි 100ට 3ට වැටෙනවා. ඒත් අපි ජාතිවාදී සටන් පාඩයක් අතර ගන්නවා.
Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna presidential candidate Namal Rajapaksa says that he too follows the policy of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa on agriculture.
A rally organised in support of SLPP presidential candidate Namal Rajapaksa was held in Galgamore this evening. Public representatives of the Kurunegala district were among those who attended the rally.
අපි මේ රටේ ගොවිතැන ශක්තිමත් කරන කටයුතු කරේ කණ්ඩායමක්.
We are a group that worked to strengthen the agricultural sector in the country. Mahinda Rajapaksa provided fertilizer at 350 rupees to farmers and strengthened their economy. The price of a kilo of paddy was at 8 rupees. We know that during the time of the government of Gotabaya Rajapaksa, we had certain shortcomings regarding fertilizer. Since wrong decisions were made based on inaccurate advice, there was injustice done to farmers for 1 or 2 farming seasons. I responsibly state I, Namal Rajapaksa, follow the agricultural policy of Mahinda Rajapaksa and no one else. Not only will we provide fertilizer subsidies for farmers, we will take steps to grow all possible crops on this land instead of importing everything from overseas. We do not speak of things that we cannot do. Some politicians and some political parties are preparing their manifesto to collect votes. They have no journey after the election. Many people say that Namal is young and he is only 38 years old. Yes, I am 38 years old. I am about 20 years younger than the next youngest candidate contesting at this election. I will have to wait for about 40 years to reach the age of the oldest candidate contesting this election. Therefore, I can't lie. There is no need to lie and I will not lie. We only speak of things that we can do. If we can't do something, we say that we can't do it. This is how we will win. Do the math. People are wondering where are the votes for the Pohot tour. The Pohot tour got 6.9 million votes at the previous election. Let's say that 1.9 million votes are gone. Even if 2.9 million votes are lost from that 6.9 million, the only presidential candidate who begins his campaign with a voter base of 4 million votes, the candidate who will emerge victorious on the 22nd and the leader who will be sworn in as the 9th executive president is Namal Rajapaksa. There is no need to clap. He has already won. Keep your firecrackers until the morning on the 22nd. This is certain. The JVP will only get 23. Ranil will only get 16 while Sajid gets 30. We started our campaign with 40. When you see him, you will feel like voting for him, don't you? When you see Namal Rajapaksa, you feel like voting for him, don't you?
Namal Rajapaksa dakkama denna hidenone.
The Government Medical Officers Association held talks with presidential candidate Dilit Jayavira.
Representatives of the Government Medical Officers Association or the GMOA met with Dilit Jayavira at the Borel office and presented their proposals.
සාමාන්‍ය වෘත්ති ගණන් 1700ක් වගේ වෛද්‍යවරු රට දාලා ඉන්නවා. ඒකෙන් 700ක් විතර වගේ විශේෂඥ වෛද්‍යවරු 1000ක් විතර වගේ ශ්‍රේණිගත වෛද්‍යවරු වඩේ වෙක අපි ඉන්නේ සෞඛ්‍ය පාත්‍රගෙන යා වෛද්‍ය සේවක පාත්‍රගෙන යා. ඒකේ ඒක පොලක් ගන්න නොඑක කාර්ය විසඳුම පිළිලුවත් හරියට ලොකුවට දෙයක් කෙරෙන්නේ ඒ වෙලාවට පොඩි. මේක හැමෝගෙම කතාව. ඉස්සෙල්ලම කියන්නේ බෑ ඒක.
This is a story that needs to be told first. It highlights the nature of many problems we face. This issue is related to Sri Lanka's human capital or human resource management. Currently, Sri Lanka lacks a government strategy for managing human resources. Therefore, we propose that the country should develop a comprehensive strategy for human resource management.
අපි යෝජනා කරන්නේ රටට මානව සම්පත් කළමනාකරණය පිළිබඳ උපාය මාර්ගයක් තියෙන්න ඕන.
Presidential candidate Dilit Jayavira thereafter spoke to the media.
අපි දිගින් දිගටම කියන්නේ සෑම සමීක්ෂණයකදීම කියනවා 140ක්.
Surveys consistently show that 40% of the people have not yet decided. This indicates something significant. The people of Sri Lanka have been asking for change, even taking to the streets to demand it. They want a substantial transformation. With 40% of the population still undecided, it is clear that no candidate will secure 50% of the vote outright. The president will be determined by the majority of votes and second preferences. Therefore, we have high expectations. Given the unique division of votes in this election, we have a great opportunity to win, and we are working towards that goal.
Ex-South Lanka Podujana Party presidential candidate Janaka Ratnayaka engaged in an awareness program for businessmen in Peta today.
Various parties have published their election manifestos. I think the people don't have time to read books. They are trying to make ends meet. When we visit these areas, the extent to which businesses have collapsed is clear. There is less than 24 days till the election. They are only publishing the manifesto now. The goals set in the manifesto cannot be done in practice. These politicians are stupid. They get some professors and scholars to write books, but in practice, they cannot work for at least 2 years.
General Secretary of the Samagi Janabalavege Ranjit Madhumbandara says the SJB is ready for any kind of discussion with the International Monetary Fund. Issuing a statement, he responded to a recent comment made by President Ranil Wickremesinghe at the United National Party convention.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe recently invited Sajith Premadasa and Andrukumari Dissanayake to participate in an open virtual discussion with the International Monetary Fund. The General Secretary of Samagi Janabalavege, Ranjit Madhumbandara, issued the statement criticizing President Ranil Wickremesinghe for imposing measures on the people under the guise of International Monetary Fund proposals and conditions. He asserted that these actions do not reflect the true intentions of the IMF. The statement highlighted that during every visit by IMF representatives to Sri Lanka, the opposition leader and the party's Economic Policy Committee have engaged in discussions with them. Ranjit Madhumbandara emphasized that whenever conditions adversely affecting the lives of ordinary people were identified, proposals were submitted to revise them.
Speaking at the 37th annual conference of the Organization of Professional Associations of Sri Lanka, independent presidential candidate Ranil Wickremesinghe said it would not be easy to change the IMF agreements.
I didn't want to be like Greece. They came to an agreement, then they had the election, then they had a referendum where 60% rejected the agreement, then the economy collapsed again, then they went back, and at the end of it, VAT, which was 13 point, became 23%. It took them 10 years to recover. I wanted the recovery to be as fast as possible. And that's what we have achieved. There are those who say we must do away with it. Those who say we must change it. How do you change it? No one is going to change it because we say so. They have looked at the economy of Sri Lanka and we've agreed the price, the path to stability. What should be done? In return, we have been given relief. I think if you look at the discussions, when you take the interest relief alone, it's about $10 billion. And it's stretched till 2042, giving us time to readjust ourselves. So all of them must agree. This is not a question of some people saying talking to the IMF. We have already passed the 4 main laws that are required. The Public Debt Management Act, the Public Finance Act, the Central Bank Act, and the Economic Transformation Act. Now, for the first time, policy is put down as a law. So you can't change it just because the minister changes or the president changes or the prime minister changes, you can't change it. You must go before parliament. And the basic principles are laid down there. So this is where we start.
Dr. Harsha De Silva, MP for the Samagi Janabalavege, commented on the economic components of the presidential election manifesto unveiled by the National People's Power.
ණය තිරසර බව පවත්වා ගැනීම හා දරාගත හැකි මට්ටමක ණය පොලි තබා ගැනීම ඉලක්ක කරගනිමින්
prepare an alternative debt sustainability analysis for use in credit review activities as needed, with the aim of maintaining debt sustainability and keeping debt interest at an affordable level. The current DSA is the foundation of the entire IMF program. If this DSA is altered, it implies that the IMF program must be reviewed again through an alternative DSA, which could potentially end the program. This is a critical point, as it means the program cannot be resumed under the same terms. We have specific parameters for debt sustainability analysis that must be adhered to. Our debt restructuring needs to align with these parameters, which include achieving a primary balance surplus of 2.3%. The DSA is constructed based on these assumptions, and the entire program relies on it. President Ranil Wickremesinghe is correct in stating that if the DSA is changed, all related aspects must also be revised. Although domestic debt restructuring has already been completed, altering the DSA is a significant and risky move. While anyone can propose an alternative DSA, it is unlikely to be accepted by the IMF. There's around 20 days more, and I challenge them to put forward an alternative DSA that would be accepted by the IMF. Everyone has been misled, and these are being said due to the lack of awareness.
IMF එක බාර ගන්නවා කියලා විකල්ප DS එක. ඒක වෙන්නේ නැහැ. එක්කෝ මේ කියන්නේ හැමෝමම උලා කරන්න. එහෙම නැත්නම් මේ කියන්නේ දැනුවත්කමක් නැති නිසා.
The National Vocational Teachers Forum held a press conference in Colombo to express their support for Andrukumara Dissanayake, the presidential candidate of the National People's Power. During the event, Vasant Samarasinghe, an executive member of the National People's Power, addressed the criticisms directed at their presidential election policy statement.
We must briefly state that they have read the policy statement of the National People's Power. People are scrambling at the passport office without passports. I want to tell Ranil Wickremesinghe to give them that passport first. The country has fallen to a level that the people cannot even obtain passports. Today, those who said that they came to catch thieves who looted the central bank, bankrupted the country, emptied the treasury and looted the banks, as well as those who are responsible, are saying that the manifesto we presented is a worthless one. Therefore, it was the people of this country who contributed to making this document. The professionals of this country, including industrialists, entrepreneurs, university teachers, professors and scientists, both local and abroad, have contributed to this program. That is why many people are afraid today. They can't cope. This can be copied. Please make one for copying.
නමුත් තනතුරට ආවම ඒ ගැන අවශ්‍ය කරන්න හිතෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒවා මතකත් නැහැ කියලා කියන ඔබතුමා.
That is the way those who have been here for so long have been doing it. The National People's Power has not been around for so long. Therefore, give the next 5 years to the National People's Power. We have told how we will do it. If we do not do it that way, the people will make that decision. So we assure you, we are a political movement that does what we say. We are doing it and showing it.
පසුගිය නැතිවරණය සිහිපත් වෙනවා උගතුන් බුද්ධිමතුන් විද්වතුන් ගුරුවරුන් ඔක්කොම එකතු වෙලා තමයි බියත් මගෙන් පහුගිය ජනාධිපතිවරයා පත් කරගත්තේ. ඒ වගේම වෙයිද දේශපාලනිකව
It was a group of politically corrupt intellectuals who were in the Viatmaga. I mean, it is not the whole representation. Scholars of this country rallied through that, but in the end it all turned out to be a disappointment because it was handled by professors who saw the old gods in their dreams. There were such doctors and professors. There are no such people here. If thieves, crooks lead them, there is point in the number of intellectuals who are below them. We are here today supporting this program. This does not include rogues, crooks, moonshine, brewers or drug peddlers. We are prepared to work under this political leadership. We believe we will not fall.
Dr. Rajitha Senaratne attended a media briefing at the UNP headquarters, Sirikota.
අවුරුදු එකහමාරකින් බංකොලොත් රාජ්‍යයක් එළියට ආපු ලෝක ඉතිහාසයේ පළවෙනි රට තමයි ශ්‍රී ලංකාව.
Sri Lanka is the first country in world history to emerge from a bankrupt state in just 1.5 years. This is the greatest achievement for Ranil Wickremesinghe. It is a victory. Previously, we entrusted the country to someone who prioritized national security above all else, and the country suffered as a result. we lost the country again. Now, as elections approach, our people from abroad can return. We welcome Sri Lankan expatriates who come back to give us advice and make decisions. However, once their work is done, they return to their comfortable lives, enjoying their evenings with whiskey and snacks, watching the news and waking up to a new day without facing the hardships we endure. I urge those brothers not to come in droves like last time at Katunayaka. Previously, they came with the tickets in hand, ready to vote for President Gotabaya, believing that the country must exist no matter what. This time, they will come with the same determination, but to vote for Brother Anura, aiming to eradicate corruption in this country. Even if you come this time, just like last time, don't leave the work to us. Do not let us handle the challenges while you enjoy your time. Therefore, I ask you gentlemen to settle here. These are the days to face challenges together. Stand in line with us and don't just come and go.
තමුසලට පුළුවන් කකා බිබී ඉන්න. ඒකෙන්ද කරුණා කරලා මං කියන්නම්. එන මහත්තුරු මෙහෙ පදිංචි වෙන්න. මෙහෙ පදිංචි වෙලා ඒ ඛේද වාචකයට මුණ දෙන්න. දිනවල. එච්චරයි. අපිත් එක්කම එකට පොලිමේ හිට ගන්නවා තමුසලා. ආපහු මෙතන ඉඳලා එහෙ යන්න එපා. හොඳේ?
Strengthening the people, fighting for the truth, leading a nation, forging the future. Newsfirst, with the people.
රවි පින්තාරු වැඩමුළුව හා ප්‍රදර්ශනය NVQ සහතිකලාභී වෘත්තීය පින්තාරු ශිල්පියෙක් ශිල්පිනියක් වීමට ඔබත් අදම එක්වන්න. විස්තර හා ව්‍යාපදිංචි වීමට අමතන්න 0777 6040. ජැක් පින්තාරු අභිමාන දේශීය දෙව් පින්තාරුකරණයේ උන්නතිය උදෙසා. For a rich country, රට අනුරට ජාතික ජන බලවේගය.
Welcome back to the news. The Colombo High Court sentenced former Minister A.H.M. Fauzi to 2 years of rigorous imprisonment after he pleaded guilty to misusing a government vehicle. However, High Court Judge Navaratna Marasinghe suspended the sentence for 10 years.
The court also imposed a fine of 400,000 rupees on Fauzi. The case brought forward by the Bribery Commission included 4 charges related to the misuse of the vehicle. Former State Minister A.H.M. Fauzi was sentenced in court for misusing a jeep donated by the Dutch government to the Minister of Disaster Management for his personal use. The case involved 4 serious charges, including influencing ministry officials such as the secretary to facilitate this misuse and spending nearly 1 million rupees from ministry funds on the vehicle's maintenance. Fauzi admitted guilt in open court. President's counsel Shavindra Fernando, representing Fauzi, said that his client was prepared to plead guilty but requested leniency given that Fauzi is now 86 years old. The judge acknowledged that it was clear Fauzi had used the vehicle for personal purposes and emphasized that as a responsible politician, he should have acted with accountability, while noting that it is unacceptable for a senior politician with 62 years of political experience to engage in such actions. The judge acknowledged he will consider Fauzi's early admission of guilt and his advanced age of 86 when deciding to impose a lenient sentence. Indictments were filed against former State Minister Diana Gamage at the Colombo High Court over illegally holding a dual citizenship. The Colombo High Court ordered for Diana Gamage to be released on bail. Former State Minister Diana Gamage appeared in court today, accompanied by her lawyer in response to the court's notice. In more local news, Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, has reaffirmed the bank's accommodative monetary policy stance, which aligns with current inflationary pressures. According to Dr. Veerasinghe, inflation is projected to remain well below the target of 5% until the first quarter of 2025, before stabilizing around the target level later in the year.
The central bank's monetary policy stance continues to be accommodative, aligning with softened inflationary pressures. As per the current projections, based on available information at present, the inflation is expected to be well below the target of 5% until first quarter of 2025, before stabilizing around the targeted level later in 2025. Though it is technically inflation target missed on the lower bound, which is 3%, the economy could benefit from this extended period of low inflation, as it is coming out of the deepest crisis after recording historic level of inflation. The low inflation environment has been providing comfort and stability to both livelihoods and business activity, contributing to a continued rebound in domestic economic activity as we have seen so far. This favorable environment has alleviated a significant bottleneck previously faced by various economic sectors for them to conduct smooth businesses. Improved fiscal performance under consolidation efforts and turnaround in financial performance of key state-owned business enterprises have enabled the banking sector to reduce its exposure to the government sector and allocate the freed up resources for lending to the private sector. Under the current low interest rate environment, we observed a gradual pickup in private sector credit in the recent period, and going forward, we expect there would be a notable expansion in lending to productive sectors, particularly those focused on exports, as well as to small and medium enterprises, which have long been the backbone of the economy. I wish to emphasize that the enactment of Central Bank of Sri Lanka Act in September 2023 was a milestone achievement, enabling the formal recognition of flexible inflation targeting as the central bank's monetary policy framework, complemented by flexible exchange rate policy.
State Minister of Finance Sirasa Emrisinghe explained that while no government prefers raising taxes, they must be set at an optimal level. He said that the current VAT rate is high, but it could be reduced once the revenue target is achieved.
Don't you think that there is an inequality in taxation to the people, because in a period where some people say that they get highly taxed, the working class in Sri Lanka, they say that they get highly taxed, while some people say that they don't even get taxed and they avoid paying their taxes. So in your opinion, what do you think about it? Is there an inequality in taxation in Sri Lanka?
Well, tax administration has to be strengthened in Sri Lanka. We have supported the Inland Revenue Department, the Customs Department, also the Excise Department, but we still believe all three agencies should be strengthened further, and we are working towards it. It should be fully digitized to ensure that that we combat evasion of taxes. And the other most important thing is, when you are down as a country economically, our government revenue came down to 8.2% of the GDP. So that is one of the lowest government revenues any country could have, unless you have plenty of natural resources. So we have gradually increased the government revenues to ensure that the basic required support by a government, which the masses expect, are to be provided. Now, the other point what you raised was taxation. Yep, I mean, any president or a government would not like to raise taxes, but the taxes should be at a optimum level. We know taxation at 80% VAT is high, so we can bring down VAT when we hit the target of 15% of the revenue. So we have now reached, we will reach 13.2 this year, and then we will reach 15% next year. So that would be a time where we can reconsider and rework our VAT percentage. And then personal income tax. I can see many opposition candidates propose a 24% income tax bracket. So basically, if you look at this, I mean, it is not realistic at the moment. We have, and any taxation policy should not be regressive also. So we have the threshold of 1.2 million per annum, and then the most appropriate proposal has been already submitted to the IMF. The authorities and the IMF is having negotiations and engagements on that. We know when we succeed with this negotiation, we should be able to have a relief on income tax, especially to the middle brackets. So this is something which the government has started discussing. And also, if you see, President Ranil Wickremesinghe kept on saying that when we grow the economy, part of the growth will be distributed among citizens of Sri Lanka. So the projected growth of the IMF is 2%, but we are confident of reaching 4% this year, or little above 4%. If not for election period, it would have been further up. So a component of this growth will be shared among citizens of Sri Lanka to ensure that we take out the burden from them. So a lot of negotiations are going on, and all those negotiations are accepted negotiations. Now, because of the elections, we can give false promises like how the others are doing. But if you give a false promise, you have to keep up to it. So our intention is to grow the economy from here and not to bring down to a similar stage of 2022 or even further a worsened situation. So we are confident that the economy is well managed. There is a burden on certain segments. Certain segments have benefited with the growth that we are enjoying, but certain sectors have to be looked at so that we are paying attention, especially on monthly wage earners. So that is one segment that we have to look at, and that we have already started negotiations with the IMF.
An event marking the International Day of Victims of Enforced Disappearances was held in Colombo today.
Minister of Justice, Prison Affairs and Constitutional Reforms, President's Counsel Ali Sabri, Ambassador of Switzerland to Sri Lanka and the Maldives, Siri Walt, and the High Commissioner of South Africa to Sri Lanka, Sandil Edwin Schalk, were among several key figures present for the event. Speaking at the event, Minister of Justice, Prison Affairs and Constitutional Reforms, President's Counsel Ali Sabri emphasized on the role of the government towards victims of enforced disappearances.
It's not a great record to say that we have a missing persons organization. But if you do not have it, you have no place to go. The biggest job in our hand is to trace them. We must give them a reasonable answer, and tell them this is the possibility which could have happened. Similar to this, during the same period, there were 4,000, close to 4,000, 3,700 odd. Sri Lankan armed forces were also missing. This is the pain of conflict. They were initially categorized, some of the members of the armed forces are here, as missing in action. Because we have their numbers and we knew that they went for confrontation and did not come back, we officially categorized them as killed in action. Sometimes Sri Lanka does not get the credit which due to it. 12,197 known, identified LTT cadres surrendered post-conflict to Sri Lankan government. We rehabilitated all of them, reintegrated to the society. And for their credit, I don't think any one of them in the soil in Sri Lanka had gone back to violence or terrorism. Some people are going into this thing and we are trying to put our forces into trouble. Will we do? Are we insane? We are here to find the truth, provide an opportunity to people.
Ambassador of Switzerland to Sri Lanka and the Maldives, Siri Walt expressed her views on sustainable peace and reconciliation.
In Sri Lanka too, addressing the question of missing persons is key to advancing sustainable peace and reconciliation. I have experienced in many meetings with families after disappeared, in the north as well as in the south, how crucial this is. The grief is still very much there, and the quest for justice is crucial to these families. We acknowledge and appreciate, therefore, the efforts made by the Sri Lankan government in this regard. The ratification of the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearances was a significant step forward. This convention is the primary international legal instrument concerning enforced disappearances. And we encourage the Sri Lankan government to continue its collaboration with the committee overseeing its implementation. We also commend the passage of domestic legislation in 2018 that criminalizes enforced disappearances. The establishment of the Office of Missing Persons, OMP, is of course a critical milestone. With the primary objective to trace missing persons, it has been endowed with a strong mandate and extensive powers to search for the fate and whereabouts of the missing, provide answers to the families, and protect their rights. As such, the OMP is indeed an essential institution for any genuine reconciliation effort in Sri Lanka. We welcome, in this respect, the recent efforts of the OMP in consulting with civil society representatives to improve its work for the victims.
For a rich country, Rata Anurata, Jatika Jana Balavegaya.
Last month, this time, a world of stories, knowledge and music just out of reach. Sri Gunananda, a small school in rural Sri Lanka, yearning to learn. A new chapter has begun. Classrooms, once quiet, now hum with the joy of discovery, music and stories, sparking imaginations. Gamadda, for the people, by the people.
The annual Nallur Festival 2024. Join us at the Shakti TV Nallur live studio from the 30th of August to the 1st of September, and tune in to Shakti TV to witness live telecast of the Sapparam on the 31st of August from 5:30 p.m. and the Thair on the 1st of September from 6:30 a.m. Shakti TV, power of the nation.
Welcome back to the news. The Cabinet of Ministers has reached a decision to allocate 500 million rupees for the purchase of paddy and also to increase the fertilizer subsidy given to farmers. Cabinet has granted approval to increase the fertilizer subsidy that was at 15,000 rupees per hectare to 25,000 rupees per hectare.
භාණ්ඩාගාරයත් සමග විමසලා මේ ගිය සතියේ ගත්ත තීරණේ සංශෝධනය කළා ඉස්තිර.
We inquired from the Treasury and we amended and approved the decision that we reached last week. With immediate effect, the fertilizer subsidy has been increased to 25,000 rupees per hectare and 50,000 rupees for 2 hectares. We amended the approved decision to deposit these subsidies to the accounts of the farmers. Initially, it was 15,000 rupees per hectare. That was increased to 25,000 rupees and the money will be deposited to the accounts of the farmers. Meanwhile, the Cabinet spokesperson also spoke about the funds allocated for the purchase of paddy. With the hope of encouraging the production of paddy at the next farming season, after considering the proposal put forward by Mahinda Amaravira, a decision was reached to provide the Paddy Marketing Board with an additional 500 million rupees. The government announced that paddy will be purchased at a rate of 105 rupees per kilo of nadu, 115 rupees per kilo of samba and 130 rupees per kilo of Kiri Samba.
Sri Lanka has advanced climate resilience with FAO's initiative on the first climate smart agriculture investment plan. But before we get into the details of that story, farmers in Sri Lanka responded to the cabinet decision to allocate 500 million rupees for the purchase of paddy. This was the response of the Mahavari Marga United Farmers Association in Anuradhapura to the program announced by the government to purchase paddy. The government has suddenly remembered the farmers and the chairman of the Paddy Marketing Board has announced that they will be purchasing paddy. They have announced that they will be purchasing nadu, samba and kiri samba at prices between 120, 115 and 110 rupees and has ordered all storage facilities across the country to be opened. Just like closing the stables after the horse has bolted, they are only preparing the storage facility
rupees of the Paddy Marketing Board to purchase our produce after we have already harvested it. A majority of farmers in the Anuradhapura district have already sold their paddy at low prices to paddy mill owners. Nadu was sold at 98 rupees. They don't purchase samba. After we have sold our paddy for dirt cheap, the government has woken up from their sleep. We have been asking the government to purchase at least 10% of paddy via the Paddy Marketing Board since the previous Maha season. The government should have done this before.
The Nachaduwa Farmers Association also spoke about this matter.
We have almost completed harvesting paddy fields for the Yala season. We are yet to receive a fair price for the paddy. Generally, rice is bought by mills for 115 to 117 rupees, 120 rupees in some places. This is at a time prices have been fixed. A guaranteed price was set at 110 rupees. If the price is fixed above 130 rupees, farmers will be able to cover their cost. President Ranil Wickremesinghe set a fixed price of 110 rupees at a time paddy can be sold for 115 to 117 rupees. That pushes the farmer into further misery.
For a rich country, Rat Anurata, Jatika Jana Balavegaya.
රටක් ලෙස අප හමුවේ ඇති සිහින අනාගතයට අප රැගෙන යන බලාපොරොත්තුවයි. සැපවත් නගරවල මෙන්ම දුප්පත් ගම්මානවල පොදු සිහිනය. යහපත් හෙට දවසක්. ඒ සිහිනය ජය ගන්නට එක්ව නැගිටිමු. ගම්මැද්ද රට නගන ජන පෞර.
Sri Lanka has advanced climate resilience with FAO's initiative on the first climate smart agriculture investment plan. In a bid to combat the escalating challenges posed by climate change, Sri Lanka has commenced the formulation of its first climate-smart agriculture investment plan. This landmark initiative, funded by the Green Climate Fund and implemented by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations in partnership with the Ministry of Environment and Ministry of Agriculture, aims to develop a comprehensive strategy to safeguard the country's agricultural sector from the adverse impacts of climate change. Sri Lanka, with its tropical climate, is highly susceptible to the effects of climate change, consistently ranking among the top 10 countries at risk of extreme weather events, according to the Global Climate Risk Index. Projections indicate significant shifts in weather patterns, including rising temperatures, erratic rainfall, and increased frequency of extreme events, all of which have already begun to diminish agricultural productivity and water availability across the island. Agriculture in the dry and intermediate zones is particularly vulnerable to the changing and variable climate due to climate change, with research projecting an average 10 to 12% yield reduction if appropriate interventions are not implemented to mitigate these effects. The CSA investment plan is designed to be a strategic and comprehensive blueprint for fostering agricultural development that is resilient to climate change.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight.
Thank you for watching.
Good night.